Welcome. This Friday morning is, what's the name of this Friday?
Good Friday.
Oh, I was going to say Holy Friday, but okay. When I went to the Kingdom Hall, I learned, or I took notes. These are from around page 3. These are from the Kingdom Hall. They're around October last year. Are you important? That's the first question that the speaker used to get what? Get the attention of the audience. Very good. What is the ransom sacrifice? Ransom. Ransom? Ransom. I think it's ransom. Do you know? That's when Jesus died and paid for all of the sins that the humans have made. Because the Mormons taught me that God the Father cannot allow one sin into heaven. I don't know if he cannot. He chooses not to allow one sin. So no humans could get there except through who had no sins. Of course, I always have the question about when he overthrew the money tables. In today's society, that would be illegal. You go to any church and throw any chairs around, you'll be put in jail. Any tables. But how is that not a sin for Jesus? Unknown. Here's another question. Does your wife love you? Does your husband love you? I don't know who's writing it, the speaker or myself. I show love by, this is B, by being polite, washing dishes, reading with my family, building my skills. And then he told a story about a beaver that the water dam had a leak. And the scientists couldn't get to it, or somehow, who knows, maybe they needed a helicopter or something, right? So instead, someone said, let's just use a beaver. And the beavers, they repaired the dam quickly, in 2 weeks. But they make bad pets because it chewed the legs off the tables and chairs. So a beaver has a place in this world. We are higher than the animals, and we have free will, but we are supposed to love God and love our neighbor. God's laws are similar to rides at a theme park, where seatbelts and bars go across over your shoulder and chest. But God's laws, if you obey them, what happens to you? What do the seatbelts protect you from in the theme park, supposedly? So if we obey God's laws, we are safer. However, there are times when people that follow God, what happens to them? They get murdered. They become martyrs. Bad people versus ignorant people. Paul of Tarsus, he had a bad temper. He was a murderer. And then I wrote out pornography, masturbation. Do you know what those are? God will judge us. Other people, they burn their children alive. My own mother told me stories about how some children were born healthy and they were made blind so that they could ask for money on the streets. Their own parents did that. Or they would break their legs so that they would never walk, so that they would always be able to ask for money. Because if you have good legs, what happens? No, a few people want to give you money. And then he told a story about the Jehovah's Witnesses in some country in Africa where the war broke out. So the Jehovah's Witnesses went to live in the mountains.
Mountains?
Yes.
That's where I got stones are dislocated.
He slipped on ice, right? Ouch. That must have been painful. So then, one of the military groups surrounded and lined up all the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? And before they were going to shoot them, a voice yelled out, who was also coming from another mountain that was higher up. Wait! 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 And so everybody said, well, it's just one man, an old man. We'll wait. Right? And when he got there, he got in line to get shot. He said, me too. Wasn't that an interesting story? So what did the military group do? They said, these are not soldiers. They are not going to hurt us. The guerrillas didn't shoot them. That was interesting. Well, guerrilla, okay. Look, the United States has a military, right? And if the United States is fighting another group inside the United States territory, they would be called freedom fighters. They would be called guerrilla fighters, right? Guerrilla is not like gorilla. Like, it sounds the same. But they are basically like ninjas versus the samurai. The samurai walk around in the daytime. They protect the king, right? They're the bodyguards. They're rulers. They're the soldiers. But the ninjas would come in at night. Yes. And the samurais, I think back then, if the man that they were protecting died, I think the samurai would do his own, you heard about it the other day, he would do his own harayaku, what was it? Where he stabs himself and dies. Because he failed. But my own grandfather said that if the soldiers or the guerrillas, he said it's the same thing. The guerrillas will put, if they win, they will put their own government up. And then 100 years, 500 years later, somebody else will put their own government up. You know, their own guerrillas, right? 1,000 years. So he said that whether you're a soldier for the U.S. Army or you're a guerrilla fighter inside the United States, he said it was the same thing. It only depended whether you were good or bad on what?
In the field? In the war?
No. In writing, well, he didn't say writing the history books, but it meant if the guerrilla fighters took over, then they will write down, what will they write down? They will write down that they were freedom fighters and that they won the war against tyranny. And if they lose, well, then the United States government will write that the guerrilla fighters were stopped. Right? You want to spar? And then something on page 4 here, Isaiah said, I will help you. All right, so those are my notes from the Kingdom Hall. You want to go cut a tree branch with me?
No, not really.
You want to go visit cousins and neighbors?
No.
You want to go to the park?
It's wet outside.
Son, you haven't stopped moving since I saw you. Right now you're going back and forth, throwing kicks, punching, throwing flips. What? You must want to do something. What do you want to do? We live for 3 things. Name them.
The soul, the mind, and the body.
And all 3 of them are equal. We live for the soul or the spirit. We live for the body or food. We live for the mind. Now, some people neglect the mind. What would be something that the mind does? The mind thinks. How does Tony Robbins say that the mind thinks? What is thinking?
It's like talking inside your mind.
He said it's answering what?
I don't know what.
A question. He said, what is thinking? What am I doing now? And then he deduced from his thinking, I'm asking questions. So thinking is looking for the answer to a question. And then in David Carradine's Kung Fu, the Kung Fu, this TV series, one of the teachers of his, the monks, said, all knowledge begins with the words, I do not. I do not know. So the Bible says, seek and. All right. You're like Peppy, the dog that wouldn't sit still. And then Mimi was like so opposite. She's lying there. God bless you and those that surround you. Go do a good deed. Go teach someone to read or carpentry or some other useful skill. Teach them to cook. Teach them to do laundry. Many people are lonely. Go visit them. Take some cookies and tea or milk. Visit them.